Hi, welcome back to my channel. If you guys are new here, my name is Jen. I am a second-year law student at Arizona State University, and in this video, I just wanted to give 5 tips to help you guys find a summer job. I am not an expert. I always say this in my sit-down videos, but these tips are just based off of my own personal experience and my friends' personal experiences in finding summer jobs in law school. So, not an expert, just things that I think will help you and things I sort of wish I knew. Yeah. The first tip I think is fairly basic, but I do think it's the most important, and that is to not limit yourself as far as practice area. Unless you have a really compelling reason to do so, I just don't think it serves you to narrow the number of positions you're applying for when you have no legal experience. So this tip's primarily for 1Ls. I guess it could apply to 2Ls and 3Ls, but if you're really trying to oh, P.S. Sorry about the wreath in the background. I have taken down all of my Christmas decorations except for that wreath because I don't know where to put it. I live in a 1-bedroom, so there's just not a ton of storage space, and I didn't really think that through before I bought this wreath. So it's still up, but anyways, I've taken down everything else. So yeah, first tip, just don't limit yourself as far as practice area. I think if you are really, really drawn to a certain area, definitely apply for the most jobs in that area, but just statistically speaking, you have a better chance if you apply for more jobs, which means you'll have to widen the scope of the practice areas you're applying for. But I also just think that until you've worked in a particular practice area, you don't know what it can be. So things that sound really boring on paper could be really exciting to work in, and vice versa. Things that sound super glamorous and exciting on paper may not be that fun to do in person. So just keep that in mind, because I have even found in my limited practice experience that things I never thought I'd be interested in are really exciting. So I just can't tell if this is focused. So yeah, just don't limit yourself unless you're really, really sure and there's only one reason you came to law school. Try to keep your mind open. It'll better your chances of finding a job, and you never know if you like or dislike something until you actually work in it. Second tip, this one's tough. Especially if you're a 1L, there just are not a ton of 1L summer jobs that pay you. So my tip is just in your application process, accept that there might be a trade-off between financial gain and your level of interest in the area. I mean, like I said, practice areas can surprise you and it may actually be a really exciting place to work, but the reality is there just aren't a ton of paid 1L summer positions. So if there's a job you really want, or an interview goes super well and you actually really connected with that firm or the government agency or whatever it is, accept that that might not be paid and it might be worth it to take that unpaid position because you really liked it. Or if your finances are such that you need to get paid this summer, no questions asked, accept that you might not be terribly interested in the work that you end up doing, and that's fine. You'll have plenty of opportunities to go off and do things that you are interested in later on. It's just the harsh reality that there just aren't a ton of paid 1L summer positions. So I think you just need to, in your application process, accept that trade-off between financial gain and your level of interest in the area. And that's not a hard and fast rule. You very well may find a position you love that's paid. It's just, I was surprised when I started doing my applications that a lot of, so many of them were unpaid. That was really surprising to me. Okay, third tip. A lot of firms for their summer associate program only take 2Ls or 3Ls. If you are a 1L and there is a firm you're very interested in working at down the line, once you're a 2L or 3L, be smart about this, but I think still send them your stuff as a 1L. I know people who have had success doing this. Be strategic about this, because you definitely don't want this firm to think that you are thinking they're going to make an exception for you because you're this incredible 1L, or even worse, that you didn't read their website description and you think they hire 1Ls. So definitely be strategic about it, but go ahead on their website and find out who runs hiring for the summer associate position, and I see no problem with sending them an email with your resume and cover letter attached, and then in the body of the email just introduce yourself, address that you know they only take 2Ls and 3Ls, but you're very interested for the following summer and you just wanted to let them know who you are and get a sense of your experience and things like that. You may get no response, you may get a response that just says thanks, we'll keep you in mind, or something like that. Or you may be able to develop a relationship and someone may respond and be sort of personable, and then you could ask if they would be willing to get coffee with you, and then there it is, you know the hiring manager for interviewing as a 2L or 3L. People hire people that they know, right? We've always been told this, and it's so true. So if you can build a relationship ahead of time, you have a way better shot at getting a position next summer. So keep that in mind. Fourth tip, I feel like for this tip, you kind of have to read the position and the interviewer and like make this on a case-by-case basis. But if they seem open to it, if it seems relatively flexible, and if you're really interested in the position, consider offering to work there starting this semester as opposed to waiting for summer. I think that demonstrates true interest in the position and a solid work ethic, and you're eager to get going. And it also makes you that much more valuable come this summer because you'll already know the people, the way things work, the practice area a little bit. So just consider it. Don't be too eager if you do pitch this in an interview, but I do think it's a fine thing to offer if it's a position you're very interested in. The worst they can do is say no. And if they do say yes and you are able to swing it, again, this goes back to my second tip, but you may not be able to get paid for those hours you're putting in during the semester, but hopefully it wouldn't be that many hours or that big of a time commitment. Maybe just 1 day or 2 days a week, not even full time. More like an internship, like something you may have done in your undergrad, but I think that that's a fine thing to offer. Okay, fifth and final tip is to control the narrative of your transcript. I know sometimes it feels like transcripts speak for themselves, but I have found that that's actually not that true. And the reality of the situation is that in law school, you don't have legal experience to talk about in an interview. So in an interview, what are they going to talk about? Yeah, they want to get to know you and your hobbies and stuff, but they're also going to want to talk about law school and your grades because that's just the way it goes. Not saying it's fair, but it's a huge part of the law school hiring process as it currently works, or at least in my experience. So I think that you need to be prepared to explain any grades that were not up to your standards. Doesn't need to be some big excuse or a big sob story, but if there is an explanation, just be prepared to give a succinct version of that. Don't dwell on it, but do explain why that grade wasn't, maybe on par with the rest of your grades. And then for your better grades, really sell those in an interview and be ready to connect those good grades and whatever they were to the practice area. Especially as a 1L, the nice thing about your grade or your courses as a 1L is that they're pretty general, so that should be an easy thing to connect them to whatever practice area. If you did super well in contracts, guarantee you're going to be able to connect contracts to whatever the position is that you're interviewing for. So be ready to sort of draw those connections and really harp on the grades that you did well in. It's going to just create a story that wasn't already there on your transcript. I don't know this because I've never interviewed. I've only ever been on the interviewee side, but I think in my experience it seems like interviewers are going to remember the good grades and those positive stories and the things you're interested in, or like those parallels you drew, a lot more than they're going to remember just one grade that wasn't that great, especially if you gave them a decent explanation for it. And so that's another tip, I guess. If there are any grades that weren't what you expected them to be, go talk to the professor of that course or just send them an email, and you can inquire a bit about the curve, because the curve is forced in law school and they have to break it at certain places. So just check, maybe it was one of those classes where maybe your raw grade was the exact same as people who did better than you in the class, but it just came down to like other criteria and they had to break the curve somewhere. Employers are going to be receptive to that. They've gone through law school, they understand how the curve works. So go talk to your professors, and maybe that'll be the explanation you need for a course that you didn't do as well in. Or maybe there's another explanation. Maybe it was scheduling or something went on, personally or anything. But I think employers are pretty receptive to stuff like that. Explain it, move on, don't dwell on it, and then really hit hard the things you did well. I think they're going to remember that a lot more, and that way you create a picture around your transcript. And you really control that narrative, and you're in the driver's seat of how it happened. They're not just trying to like deduce things by looking at this piece of paper with your grades. So those are my 5 tips to hopefully help you guys land a summer job. And just remember, you'll find something. May not be paid, may not be something you're super interested in, but everyone will wind up somewhere, and who knows, you may love it. So don't stress too much. I really think everyone finds something to do over the summer. I didn't go too much into like interview skills, resume tips, things like that in this video. I'm happy to do another one if you guys want to hear my 2 cents on all of that, but I just wanted to focus more generally on finding a job and that process in this video. So let me know if that's something you'd be interested in. But in general, I mean, same rules apply to interview for a law job as they do for any other job. Make sure you look good, present yourself clean and well, clean up your social media, and be very personable, I guess. Anyways, I can go more into it in another video if you guys want, but that's all I got. But let me know what else you guys might want to see, and thank you so much for watching. I will see you in my next video. Bye guys.